Hello, for those of you watching, no one is, of course I am currently live, and you've heard it folks, Esteban Ocon will be departing Alpine at the end of 2024. Huge news headlines, although to be honest, after what happened at Monaco, is it really that much of a shock? I don't really think so. Although, if we're going to be truly honest, that incident between Ocon and Gasly was not the cause of Ocon's departure. Ocon's departure has been caused by the fact that his relationship with the team has been declining for some time now. Now, if you go to the press conference for the Alpine car launch at the start of this season, Craig Slater of Sky Sports asked Esteban, Lewis Hamilton has declared that he'll be joining Ferrari for next season. We know Toto Wolff is your manager. Do you have any interest at Mercedes? And Esteban was basically like, yes. I have a great relationship with Mercedes. I've been their test driver. I would love to drive for a Mercedes if the offer ever came up. I mean, it's pretty clear at the start of the year, Esteban was making no secret of the fact that he really didn't care about having any loyalty to Alpine. And hello there, Silverback. I hope you're doing well this evening, afternoon, wherever you are. But, of course, thanks to Esteban's departure, of course, there are rumours of him joining many teams next year. Of course, there have been rumours of him joining Mercedes, since, of course, Mercedes still need to look for a new driver. Carlos Sainz, Antonio Kimi Antonelli have been considered as replacements at Mercedes, and we cannot rule out Esteban Ocon. Although it has to be said, though, Esteban Ocon's attitude is somewhat questionable at this point. Red Bull have been mentioned as a potential place since, of course, there has not been a confirmation of Sergio Perez extending his contract at Red Bull yet. Who knows? I mean, I know there's been a few pundits who have said that wouldn't it be fun to see Max Verstappen go up against his old Formula 3 rival, Esteban Ocon, where, of course, Ocon has expressed this bitterness over the fact that, when he won the Formula 3 championship in 2014, Max got driving Formula 1 with Toro Rosso, despite the fact Max only finished third in the championship, whilst Ocon had to join Prema in GP3 the following season, which I think it's safe to say, I think that's more of a result of the fact that Esteban Ocon isn't really quite as skilled as Max Verstappen, shall we say. Of course, there's also been, Ocon has also mentioned the fact that he could be joining Williams, Haas, or even the Sauber Audi team for next season. But, would Esteban Ocon fit at Williams? I mean, with James Vowell talking about how he wants to make the team a lot more cohesive, a lot more progressive. I mean, Alex Albon has been a great team leader. Logan Sargeant, despite his poor performances, has been very selfless in how he's given up, how he gave up his car for Alex earlier on in the season, and how, he's been willing to drive all the bits and pieces on his Williams in order to help the team progress. And then we have Haas, where with Hulkenberg leaving, I mean, would Haas want to have a partnership of Kevin Magnussen and Esteban Ocon together? It's a really interesting one. And for those of you joining in, yes, Esteban Ocon has announced he is departing Alpine. It has been a departure waiting on the card for some time. But, like I said, there are rumours that Ocon would be, as about up to 5 teams he could join for 2025. Red Bull, where, my goodness me, the idea of Ocon taking on Verstappen would be fireworks everywhere, madness to witness, and of course, I think ultimately Max would probably have the upper hand over Ocon, and with the Red Bull junior driver program, I mean, would Red Bull really take Esteban on? I mean, it's a question mark, and of course, there have been question marks over whether the Red Bull driver junior academy is going to continue in the future, since, of course, we haven't seen many Red Bull juniors make the jump up to Formula One, or even a Red Bull senior team. Mercedes, where, of course, Hamilton is leaving. And then, of course, Haas, Williams, and Sauber all being mentioned, of course. There's also talks that Esteban Ocon could be joining Sauber, which I'm not entirely sure where Esteban would really fit at Sauber, to be honest, but I mean, they've got two junior drivers in Maloney and, of course, Teo Porcher on their test driver bench. Of course, Maloney is currently racing in Formula 2 up against the likes of Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli, whilst, of course, Teo Porcher is the reigning Formula 2 champion, so therefore he can't race in Formula 2, but he has gone to race in IndyCar in the meantime. Magnussen and Ocon would suit Haas. That's an interesting one to say. I'm not sure about that. But that would be crazy to watch. Ruben Barrichello is the best. Blimey, I think we're going a bit overboard there. But of course, we have to talk about the background of Esteban Ocon. I mean, Esteban Ocon grew up to a Spanish father and an Arab Algerian mother. He was, his family was fairly poor. His dad worked as a garage mechanic. His mom was a housewife. And when it turned out that Esteban Ocon had the aptitude to become a racing driver, his family decided to sell their house and live in a caravan. Wow, did Ocon's mom do jail time? I think that's... No. I think that's Alex Albon's mom who did jail time, because, of course, she went and frauded a load of businessmen for a bunch of luxury cars. That's Alex Albon's mom. I think you got the wrong one there. I mean... sorry, mate. I'm talking about Esteban Ocon right now. Yeah, Grosjean and Magnussen drove for Haas for 4 years. It wouldn't be that bad, yeah, but you gotta realise, though, both Ocon and Magnussen are the two type of drivers who won't give an inch to anyone, so I'm not sure how that partnership is going to work. To be honest, I am really not sure where Esteban Ocon's future in F1 lies after this, because there's going to be a huge fight between himself and Carlos Sainz for those seats at Red Bull and Mercedes. Like, I am sure those two seats have got to be Esteban's priority. Like, I mean, Sainz is now 29 years old. Esteban is 27 years old. Of course, next year they're going to be 28 and 30 years old, respectively. So, they are no longer young. Of course, I mean, frankly, at this point, I mean, if Esteban joins Williams, Haas, or Sauber, I don't really see Esteban Ocon having a particularly successful F1 career. And to be honest, he's got to keep his nose clean for the rest of the season. He has definitely got to keep his nose clean, because I'll tell you why. If Esteban isn't willing to show that he can be a team player, it's going to affect his reputation terribly towards himself, upon himself, in terms of marketing his own brand and his own services to the likes of Red Bull and Mercedes. Max Verstappen, I don't need to tell you right now, is pretty much Red Bull's number one. George Russell, I presume, is also now going to be Mercedes' number one for the foreseeable future. And of course, they've got Antonio Kimi Antonelli on their books. Toto Wolff has got Esteban's back, yeah, but how loyal is Toto Wolff going to remain towards Esteban Ocon? Because if Toto does sign Ocon at Mercedes for next year, it will be on a results first basis, in that Ocon has got to perform. Otherwise, he's going to be out of the team. Of course, yes, I agree with you, say Regara. Prost was a better driver than Senna. Yes, I know Senna was faster, but, I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about Toto Wolff and Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon has got to play the role of a team player now. Like, I think as much as I know he hates it, Pierre Gasly, and his relationship with Bruno Farming has very much gone to zero, he has got to show other teams that he is willing to be a team player. Yes, I know Ocon has given us fireworks with his relationship with Sergio Perez at Force India, and of course Fernando Alonso in recent years, partially pushing Fernando Alonso towards the exit door of the team to go and join Aston Martin. But kind of just like Juan Pablo Montoya 20 years ago when he was in F1, I think eventually everyone got fed up with his antics, and of course, he burned his bridges with Frank Williams and Patrick Head when he was driving for their team, and Ron Dennis pretty much kicked him out of McLaren after just 18 months. Esteban Ocon has got to watch his back now. I am warning him severely. This could get very tasty, but this is a very precarious situation for Esteban Ocon, because he has to show himself to be a disciplined driver that teams can rely upon. Now, obviously, I know he does harbor a burning ambition to be a world champion, but he can't be going out there attempting daft moves like trying to overtake Esteban Ocon around the outside of Massenet, like we saw at the start of the race at the last Monaco Grand Prix we just saw. Of course, I know the TV cameras didn't pick it up, but if you watch an onboard of Lance Stroll's at Aston Martin, you will see Esteban Ocon inexplicably trying to creep up around the outside of Pierre Gasly on a run up to Massenet, and then Gasly then pinching Ocon's car to the outside barrier, because Gasly didn't even see Ocon coming up upon him, because he just simply didn't expect Ocon to be trying and overtake a move at such a fast corner on the track. Of course, there's also, talks that Esteban Ocon might not even be in Formula 1 next season. And of course, I think it's now time to talk about who could replace Esteban Ocon at Alpine for 2025. There's, of course, their reserve drivers, Victor Martins and Jack Dowen, both of whom are racing in Formula 2. I think at the time of recording, Jack Dowen is leading the Formula 2 Championship, so I think he's a very heavy odds-on favourite, in my opinion, to join Alpine for 2025. I've got to say, that was Ocon's fault until August 2018 between him and Max, but there's also Victor Martins, his only real chance of joining Alpine for next season lies in the fact that he's French. But, let's face it, of course, Mick Schumacher may be in the running. We cannot rule him out, but we all saw what the limit of what Mick Schumacher could do at Haas back in 2022. And whilst he was fast and he did occasionally score points, he was not very consistent, I have to say. And of course, he did like to get a bit close with the Armco barriers, let's just say. He was a bit, he had a very friendly relationship with the Armco and the Tech Pro barriers around many racing circuits around the world during his 2 years at Haas. Obviously, Alpine, I don't think they really want to bring a rookie driver to their team, since, of course, there's also question marks about whether, Gasly will be staying at the team as well, if we're going to be truly honest, because I know there's been rumours that Gasly could be joining Williams, surprisingly enough, for 2025. But with this news, I think this pretty much, is going to guarantee Pierre Gasly will be signing a contract extension at Alpine, because frankly, they need a team leader and they need an experienced driver. And with, of course, Esteban Ocon out of the way, this makes a Gasly contract extension 10 times more likely. And of course, we cannot forget Mick Schumacher did cost Haas about, I think, $8 million in terms of crash damage, I'm afraid. So, I mean, I think he's probably like only second favourite to Jack Dowen in terms of how likely he is to join Alpine. And how can we forget Valtteri Bottas? I mean, I don't know how good or bad his relationship with Sauber is, although, of course, with Nico Hulkenberg joining Sauber for 2025 in anticipation for their transformation into Audi, we cannot rule out Valtteri Bottas. Safe, sensible, pair of hands. Never not a renowned team player. He's no longer as quick as he was a few years ago, but he is someone you can rely upon to score points, keep his car out of the barriers, say the right things in press conferences, rarely lose his temper unless someone provokes him or he gets involved in some stupid accident that's not his fault. So, there's about 4 drivers who could join Alpine in 2025. Of course, Andreas Seidel wanted Bottas last year already. Oh, he wanted Bottas gone last year. Oh, yeah, because I think Hulkenberg got offered a contract by Sauber for this season. But, of course, before Audi came along, of course, Hulkenberg actually turned it down. So, but having said that, though, I mean, if I was to rate who was most likely to join Alpine for 2025, it's got to be Jack Dowen number 1. Mick Schumacher number 2. Valtteri Bottas number 3. And then number 4 is probably Victor Martins. Of course, I'm not even sure how is it going to work out. Of course, Bottas, well, I mean, I will say he's still outqualified Zhou, but I mean, to be honest, is Bottas really that good anymore? I don't really think so. Of course, I know there's some who might be mentioning Carlos Sainz to join Alpine, but I really don't think that's going to happen. I don't know what you're smoking if you think Carlos Sainz is going to be joining Alpine, because that is quite unlikely in my books. And I mean, as a Gasly fan, I don't know what I'm going to want to do with him now. Pierre Gasly, I don't know what your future is going to look like now, because, of course, I know you're going to be tempted to join, to sign a new contract extension for 2025 at Alpine F1, but unless Alpine improve the pace of their car in the next 6 races, I am beginning to get quite worried about Pierre Gasly, because, well, Well, I mean, I know Bottas has ever been that good. I mean, he was always at best just a decent number 2 driver at Mercedes, but of course, I don't think I've ever seen anyone, except for the most deluded Bottas fanboys and girls, say that he's World Championship material. William Bottas is as if he wants to see the guy get stoned. Gasly did say he wants to be a factory team, yeah. Yeah, I heard him say that, and I am well aware that Pierre Gasly is probably going to be keen to stay at the Alpine team for the foreseeable future. Of course, I did mention somewhere that I wanted to see Pierre Gasly join Sauber, but with Hulkenberg at the team, I'm not entirely sure how Pierre Gasly would fit a team like Sauber, although, of course, I can't really see how the hell someone like Esteban Ocon can fit there, since, of course, if Esteban Ocon wants to go to Sauber, I mean, I think the team would almost certainly his career would probably die there because, of course, Nico Hulkenberg would just annihilate him when it comes to qualifying, meaning that Nico Hulkenberg would have all the best pit strategies, the best newest parts coming his way, and unfortunately, Esteban Ocon would probably throw his sulk and then start randomly smashing drivers off the track again, like he always does. And of course, I can guarantee you, if Esteban Ocon did attempt to try and overtake Nico Hulkenberg and he crashed both himself and Hulkenberg out of the race, he's getting benched. He's going to get benched because unlike with Bruno Farming at Alpine, I mean, Andreas Seidel actually has a pair of bollocks on him. Like, Andreas Seidel is someone who actually walks the walk and will actually implement swift and fast action as a consequence of a driver's performances on track. I mean, he was pretty firm in getting rid of Daniel Ricciardo after just 2 years, even if he had to pay Daniel Ricciardo a nice compensation fee just to get was it Oscar Piastri? But of course, I can't remember. When did Andreas Seidel join Sauber? Was it this year or was it last year? But regardless, I mean, Andreas Seidel was pretty firm with Daniel Ricciardo with his poor performances at the McLaren team. Who the hell gave Valtteri Bottas 10 out of 10 for his performances 2018? The guy finished, what was it, 5th in the championship behind Kimi Räikkönen, who had just taken his first race win in about 5 years, and of course Max Verstappen, who spent the first half of 2018 crashing into every object that would move on this living earth, whether it be an elephant, whether it be Daniel Ricciardo, whether it be, I don't know, Lance Stroll, whether it be a pigeon down the alleyway in Milton Keynes. I mean, goodness me, I mean, but yeah, Bottas finishing 5th, having finished, I think, in the last 4 races, he finished 5th in all four of the last 4 races of 2018, which was absolutely abysmal considering Lewis Hamilton strolled to the World Championship in the most dominant performance I'd ever seen from Lewis Hamilton. I will say, it doesn't matter how much you hate Lewis Hamilton, you have got to give him his flowers for the way he drove in 2018. 11 victories against what was probably the best Ferrari the team had produced in about 10 years since 2008. Goodness me, Pierre Gasly is a bit... I'm worried about Pierre Gasly because, of course, he burnt his bridges at Red Bull. He has no relationship of any sort with Toto Wolff, so he's definitely not going to end up in those 2 teams. I can't see him going to Aston Martin, but then, of course, I can't see any other driver going to Aston Martin since, of course, Alonso has a deal until 2016. No, 2026, I beg your pardon. And, of course, Lance Stroll has a job for life. You know, I should have done a poll, to be honest. Like, what do you think is going to happen next to Esteban Ocon? What's Ocon's next move? Okay, I am coming up with the options. Haas, Sauber. So there is my poll. I mean, of course, I will be back in a... Oh, sorry. Oh, bloody hell. Whoa. Goodness me. My God, what happened to my stream? Oh, my God. I'm sorry. I didn't read out so many comments. David Croft thinks Zhou is going to... Oh, God. Oh, what the hell? Joe Grant, you at Alpine? What is he smoking, man? What the hell? What the... Oh, my God. Yeah. Andreas Seidel decided to sack Ricciardo after the British Grand Prix. Yeah, absolutely correct, Will. Thank you for refreshing my memory. Long 22 minutes. Kimi is discussed. Well, I mean, I'm not. Well, this is not about Kimi Räikkönen. I'm just mentioning the fact that Kimi Räikkönen finished 3rd in the 2018 championship, having taken what was his first race victory in about 5 years. And unfortunately, it was the last time Kimi ever won in F1. So Kimi didn't, Bottas didn't win a race in 2018. Absolutely. Like, how can you give a driver who was driving a Mercedes 10 out of 10 for not, was not winning a race? That's just, I think, where did I rank Valtteri Bottas on my driver list in 2018? Was it 12th? Was it 15th? Like, my God, like, I think I gave him like a 6 out of 10 for 2018. He was just atrocious, if I'm going to be truly honest. I mean, 2017, 2019 were pretty good. I think I gave him at least a 7.5 out of 10. I mean, 2020, though, I think I ranked him all the way down in 15th of my list because I know he finished runner-up, but Mercedes had a car that was 8 tenths faster than everyone else's car. So, I mean, really, Valtteri, no. Honda might twist Lawrence Stroll's arms against Tsunoda in 26, yeah. That's good. I think it's pretty much penciled in that Tsunoda is going to be an Aston Martin driver soon because, to be honest, like, I mean, if anyone's going to replace Stroll Jr., it's going to be Yuki. Bottas gave the win oh yeah, he gave the win to Hamilton in Russia, I forgot, yeah, but even with that race, like, Bottas still was pretty awful throughout the season. Like, I know that was a pretty sad day, but who did I? Oh yeah, I ranked Bottas ahead of Vettel ahead of Bottas in 2020. Yeah, that's because, to be honest, yeah, but we all know the situation at Ferrari back then. You know, Ferrari announced Vettel was going to leave before the season even started. And we all saw the car having all sorts of handling issues, particularly on Vettel's chassis, which was all very suspicious, I will say. Very suspicious. I mean, Sebastian Vettel, on his way to Aston Martin, was very conveniently given a Ferrari that couldn't drive straight in that couldn't be driven in a straight line compared to Leclerc's chassis, which had no major handling issues other than the fact that it was just really slow and it had a lot of drag and lacked downforce. Of course, according to my poll, a lot of people think that Ocon is going to be moving to Haas for 2025, which is an interesting move. But of course, I think that pretty much just sums up how much Esteban Ocon's stock has dropped in F1. I think I ranked Valtteri Bottas 10th in 2021 because I thought, you know, he finished quite a far way ahead of Perez for 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship. He won the race at Turkey. Pretty decent driver, in my opinion, in what was the wet conditions. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Where did I rank Bottas in 2022? I can't even remember now. Like, I don't even care, to be honest. I think I probably ranked him like 9th or 10th, but to be honest, there's not much to say about Bottas. I mean, we cannot rule out the possibility he goes to Alpine, but the thing is, Valtteri Bottas is now yesterday's man at this point. I mean, Alfa, oh yeah, I mean, Alfa did have a very good car in 2022. I mean, they did finish 6th on countback, I will say, but who finished in front of them? Was it Alpine? McLaren? I think that might be a bit too much to say Alfa had the 4th best car, though. I think that's a little bit over the top, but we have to remember, though, Zhou Guanyu did, I mean, scored only, 6 points compared to 49 points to Bottas. So, I mean, I think even if Alfa had a better driver that season in their second car instead of Zhou, I mean, I still think they would have finished 6th, but they definitely would have finished 6th at least with about 30 points over Aston Martin. He beat Vettel in 2022, yeah, but I mean, Aston Martin at the start of 2022 were atrocious. If you forgot, like, I think they were one of the 2 slowest cars on the grid after the first 4 or 5 races. I mean, yeah, I think Alfa did have a pretty good quick car to start 2022, but realistically, with the driver pairing Alpine and McLaren had, I mean, even Daniel Ricciardo was never going to hold McLaren back that much. And you have to remember, Ricciardo being as bad as he was in 2022, I mean, McLaren, I think, still finished 5th, regardless of him being at the team. So, you know, I think, and Ricciardo was only slightly better than Zhou Guan Yu that season. Carlos Sainz, yeah, I mean, Carlos Sainz joining Alpine, I have said no, because I don't think Carlos Sainz would. I think it's very much only 3 teams I can think of for Carlos Sainz. It's going to be Mercedes, Red Bull, and Sauber. Like, I can't see him, like, going to Alpine at all. It just seems a bit silly, to be honest. And 5 people have voted for Haas in my poll, so. Oh, yeah, of course they scored the same points Aston and Alfa in 2022, but of course, Alfa Romeo's best finish of the year was 4th place at the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix at Imola, where, of course, was it 4th or 5th? I can't remember, but I could remember Bottas was all over the back end of George Russell towards the end of that race. I really don't know. I will say this. This has thrown a huge spanner in the works in terms of the driver market. I have no idea. With Ocon leaving Alpine and Sainz being forced to leave Ferrari for 2025, I mean, I am absolutely clueless about who's going to join who in next season now, because, of course, I think Ocon and Sainz are going to have a huge battle for the seats at Mercedes and Red Bull, of course. I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously, Red Bull would prefer to choose a junior driver, but of course, they don't have any junior drivers where they want to pick. So, I mean, that Red Bull second seat is still up for grabs. Mercedes, like, question marks over Kimi Antonelli and whether he's ready for a seat like Mercedes so early on in his young career. Of course, he is still only 17 years old. Of course, yeah, of course, Aston Martin. You can't realise, of course, Aston Martin pretty much finished 7th in 2022 after a terrible start. And, of course, but the second half of the year, the car improved. Vettel was driving the wheels off that car, having actually announced his retirement halfway through the season. But, of course, Vettel, I mean, obviously, Vettel ended his career pretty well. But would he have got those podiums that Alonso got in 2023? I'm not sure, but. And yeah, the driver market just got more exciting. Thank you, John. Thank you for everyone joining in. I mean, Aston Martin had the 3rd worst car. I'm not sure about that, but you've got to realise, of course, that Stroll was the other driver. So it's like, can we really work out how good Aston Martin was? Because, I mean, we have seen Lance Stroll get destroyed by Alonso since, so, you know. Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. It's very, I mean, as for Esteban Ocon, well, I mean, usually an announcement like Esteban Ocon leaving Alpine would be usually announced by where Esteban Ocon would be heading, but of course, we don't know where Esteban Ocon is going to be joining. Like, he hasn't even come close to mentioning he could be in a contract talks with any team in particular, apart from early talks with teams like Williams and Haas, which is basically Esteban Ocon relegating himself to a midfield driver career for the rest of his time in F1, to be honest. I mean, Carlos Sainz, I think, is still a heavy favourite to get a top seat ahead of Ocon, in my opinion. There are a lot of things I could talk about. I'm not even sure. I mean, of course, lots of people have joined late on in the stream. I mean, please ask me any questions that you want about the driver market. Like, what do you think I could talk about? Because if you don't come up with anything, then I'm going to have to end the stream in about 4 or 5 minutes' time, to be honest, because I need to do something soon. So I'll give you like 1 or 2 minutes to ask me anything you like. And I hope you're doing well. I hope you're doing well on this afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Of course, it's Monday. Of course, with the Canadian Grand Prix coming up, it could be quite interesting. I mean, we can talk all day long about Aston Martin and Alfa Romeo, but that's not what this stream is about. This stream is about Esteban Ocon, I mean, I know there's some people who said that Esteban Ocon could be going to IndyCar for next season, which, oh, blimey, what a move that would be. I mean, if Ocon was to go to IndyCar, I think, yeah, that's pretty much the end of Esteban Ocon in F1 because, of course, you've got to give Ocon credit. He did give Alonso a good run for his money in the 2 seasons he had with him as teammates at Alpine, but of course, they were a very toxic relationship. They had a very toxic relationship, just like Ocon has had a very toxic relationship with Gasly, with, of course, their child, with their rivalry starting back from childhood when they were feuding karting rivals. I mean, obviously, yeah, I think realistically, Ocon is probably going to end up at somewhere like Haas or Williams because, I mean, there is talent in Ocon, but he is a total moron when it comes to his racecraft, and he does have a habit of just of wanting to target 1 or 2 other drivers on the grid without thinking about the entire race as a whole and understanding there is an entire field of drivers to compete against. He does have a habit of wanting to prove to people that he's better than this guy or that guy, but he has a habit of forgetting about the bigger picture as a whole, which is a big, big problem with Esteban. I mean, yeah, well, I mean, I think we're going Ferrucci and Ocon. I think Ferrucci's gone to NASCAR now. I mean, I know Ferrucci does the Indy 500 along with, of course, Connor Daly, who are both part-time drivers. But yeah, dude, Esteban Ocon, I think, is definitely damaged his reputation now quite severely, especially after his comments after the Monaco Grand Prix, where someone asked him that. Someone said to him, Bruno Farmin has blamed you for the crash, and he just immediately walked away from the female journalist and started talking to someone else, which is, that's a big no-no, Esteban. That's a big PR no-no, and it has to be said, the PR mask definitely fell away from Ocon last weekend, where, of course, we have to remember last year at Monaco, Esteban Ocon finished 3rd around the Principality. He scored a podium for Alpine the previous year around the same track. So, what a fall from grace Esteban has had. I mean, we have to remember, though, Esteban Ocon grew up poor. He grew up in a caravan. He had to rely on handouts from Total Wolff and his associates to stay in racing. And he was very much under pressure to be, like, winning races and getting results throughout his childhood just so that he could, because of course his dad is not a billionaire and he's certainly not a millionaire. Like Esteban Ocon is the polar opposite of Lance Stroll, but unfortunately, just like Lance Stroll, both of them have a habit of getting involved in stupid incidents neither of them need to be involved in. I mean, if anyone wants to ask me any more questions about what the futures of, I think, Ocon could be like, please ask, because I don't really know what else to say. I think in 2 minutes' time I'm gonna end the stream. I mean, yeah, Vettel. I will say there were glimpses of the old Red Bull Vettel at Aston Martin towards the end of his time his time at the team. 2022, second half of 2022. You know, great performances like getting Aston Martin into Q3 at Suzuka, finished running in 4th place at Coulter before, of course, the team gave him a horrifically bad pit stop. I mean, that was such a shame, mind you, because I think he could have well have got a surprise podium if everything went fine and dandy. Haryanto, no. Ocon replaced real Haryanto at Manor. It wasn't, because you got to realise that the first half of 2016, Pascal Vernon was real Haryanto's teammate, and then of course Haryanto had to leave because he ran out of sponsorship money because Indian oil company Pertamina pulled a plug on his funding. 10-9 against Stroll in races, or I believe has no place in F1. Or yeah, but we've got to realise, though, I think Sebastian Vettel had very much checked out of Formula One in his last 2 years as Aston Martin. Like, the talent was still there, the speed was still there. You know, we got a podium at Baku at 2021, but the passion and the will and the determination just wasn't there anymore. And let's be honest, Sebastian Vettel was making it very clear that he was more fond of spending time with bees rather than singing racing cars by that time. I mean, yeah, I have said this. Lance Stroll was just relying on, like, not just to beat Sebastian Vettel, as well as, of course, getting team orders in his favour due to being the son of you-know-who. But, you know, I would like to see, you know, what it's Esteban Ocon. I mean, I think we've all established Esteban Ocon is not a future world champion. Like, anyone who thinks that is just a deluded fanboy at this point. I mean, he's already won a race at the 2021 Hungarian Grand Prix, so he's already achieved about 90, more than what 95% of drivers in F1 have ever achieved. But the fact of the matter is, like, if I was Red Bull and if I was Mercedes, I mean, the guy's a liability. Like, I mean, I think there's more chance of Pierre Gasly getting a seat at Mercedes than Esteban Ocon if Toto Wolff really wanted to have, like, a proper team with, of course, a decent number 2 driver alongside George Russell. Of course, I know a lot, there's a few of you who don't particularly rate George Russell due to the fact that, I mean, Russell needs a bit of work on him as well, of course. I mean, Russell's not been completely perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Did Seb name his car for the last season of for his last F1 season? Because I know he named his one of his Aston Martins, was it Honey Rider? I don't think he actually gave a name to his last car, funnily enough, because I know on his Wikipedia pages there's like a list of names that Vettel gave to his cars in F1, like Kylie's dirty sister, Heidi, I don't know what else, Lena, Loria. Oh my god, I really do miss Sebastian Vettel, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I think Sebastian Vettel missed the first 2 races of 2022 because he was boycotting Saudi Arabia. I mean, he just gave it a false vaccine test and was like, yeah, I'm positive. Even though the whole thing was all forged by his doctor. But, you know, I know deep down Sebastian Vettel deliberately skipped the first 2 races of 2022 because deep down, like, he knew the car was bad. And he didn't want to be spending time in countries like Saudi Arabia anymore. So can you blame him? No. I mean, Mercedes, I think I've got a massive problem in their hands, to be honest, because George Russell is not really. George Russell at best is for me a sort of driver whose ceiling is about as high as what Jacques Villeneuve had as a driver. Like, you know, yes, he'll have his days where he can drive away to the front if you give him a good enough car, but if you give him a less than optimal car, then he starts to struggle. But of course, I mean, I still rate George Russell higher than someone like Esteban Ocon, who is just. I understand his fans talk about his rough background, but, you know, he needs a bit more of a racing, bit more of a brain up there in terms of picking his battles, picking his fights, because, you know, on the evidence of what we've seen of having had teammates like Perez, Alonso, and Gasly, he will pick up a fight for no reason, and he will just sit there and start attempting overtaking maneuvers that make no sense at all at a particular moment in time. And the fact he always likes to do it within the first 2 laps of a race, when it's like, dude, like, there's so many cars around you. And of course, things like Hungary 2022, when of course he held up Alonso at the start and allowed Hamilton past, and then he held up Alonso later on in the race and he allowed Ricciardo to overtake the pair of them, and Saudi Arabia and Brazil, where he just kept getting in the way of Alonso. It's like, oh, for goodness sake, Ocon, like, I know you want to prove people how good you are, but you're just proving yourself to be a liability who is just getting in the way of the team's progress. So, you know, big question marks. I mean, yeah, George Russell was an idiot for his crash with Bottas at the 2021 Imola Grand Prix, but that's now 3 years ago, to be honest. And we all knew Russell was always going to replace Bottas because, I mean, Bottas is Bottas. There's not much else to say. And my voice is getting pretty tired. But, thank you very much for watching this stream. I'll see you next time over here at Crystal Racing.